Hi, I'm Mike Cashion, a lawyer with Cashion Legal. If your employment has recently been terminated and you've been offered a severance package and you're wondering whether or not the amount that you've been offered is fair, whether it complies with all the legal obligations, in this video, I'm going to run through some of the basic components of severance packages in Alberta. And by the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding of severance packages in Alberta and what value there might be in speaking to a lawyer about your severance package. When your employment is terminated by your employer without cause and without notice, they are required to provide you with pay in lieu of notice. The technical obligation on employers in Alberta is to tell people ahead of time that their employment will be terminated at a later date. In practice, employers provide pay in lieu of notice, which is what we commonly refer to as severance. It's important to note that if your employment is terminated for cause, you are not entitled to severance, though you can challenge the termination for cause if you think there are grounds to do so. And we have a video dealing with termination for cause, and if that's your situation, I encourage you to watch that. If you resign from your employment, you're generally not entitled to severance unless you've been constructively dismissed. We have a video dealing with constructive dismissal where you can learn more about that topic as well. In Alberta, there are three basic sources of the entitlement to notice or pay in lieu of notice. The first source of that entitlement is Alberta's Employment Standards Code. It's a comprehensive statute that deals with many employment issues and sets out basic minimum entitlements to severance for almost all employees in Alberta. Regardless of the terms of your employment contract, if your employment is terminated without cause, you are entitled to receive those basic minimum amounts of severance that are prescribed by the Employment Standards Code. The second source of your entitlement to severance are the terms of your employment contract. So if you have a written employment contract with your employer, there may be language in your employment contract which stipulates the amount of severance that you're entitled to. The amount of severance that you can receive under your employment contract can be more than what you're provided under the code, but it cannot be less than what is provided under the code. The third source of your entitlement to severance is the common law. So if your employment contract is silent on the obligation to provide severance, or if you don't have a written employment contract with your employer, you're entitled to common law notice. Common law notice is not a fixed amount. There is no formula or calculation for common law notice. It is a matter of judicial discretion and is determined with reference to various factors, primarily the employee's age, length of service, position with the company, and ability to find employment elsewhere. The components of your compensation that make up your severance package depend on what type of severance you're entitled to. If you're only entitled to severance under the code, there's a limited amount of items that can form part of your severance package. But if you are entitled to common law notice, or even in some cases contractual notice or contractual severance, the forms of compensation can be much broader. Under common law notice, you'd be entitled to receive any bonuses, commissions, benefits, and even vacation pay that would have accrued during the theoretical notice period. So whatever you would have earned during that notice period must form part of your severance. If your employer has terminated your employment and offered you a severance package, you should know that the terms that your employer has presented to you are always negotiable. An employment lawyer can review the severance package that you've been offered, make sure that it complies with all the relevant legal entitlements, and additionally advise you if there are other terms attached to the severance package which are unfair or unreasonable. The offer from the employer may include a deadline indicating that you only have a stipulated period of time to accept the severance package, but in our experience, employers are usually willing to grant extensions of that deadline. If your employer is offering any more severance than your basic legal entitlements under the code or under your employment contract, you will likely have to sign a release in connection with receiving those payments. If you're wondering whether the terms of that release are unfair, or if you have questions about whether the severance you're being offered is fair, you should speak to an employment lawyer to get a better understanding of the scenario before you sign the document, because it's difficult to address the situation once the document is signed. If you have any concerns about the way that you're being treated in the workplace and you're looking for clarity and peace of mind about your circumstances, contact us today to book a consultation.